Welcome back to the Pixelists podcast, the podcast about all the nerdy things we love and get hurt by.
Hurts so deep. Hurts so deep.
I'm Will, and that right there is our boy Blake. He's back.
Should I dab?
I mean, whatever feels right, man.
Feels like I should cheer or something. Yeah, I'm on day 8 of the Rona, and this is like literally the first day that I have felt good enough to do literally anything. I'm alive. That's pretty much it.
This is actually a monumental episode because we both have COVID right now.
That's true. You have COVID too. That's right.
It's a special COVID edition of the Pixelist podcast. And
this is going to be, if you're listening on like a podcast platform, this is probably going to be a really obnoxious episode because we're going to be coughing a lot.
Yeah.
so like I have like a horrible cough. And
me too.
Maybe now that I've said that though, maybe now like fate strikes well and I just don't cough anymore today.
Hey, we can hope. So apologies for any of my coughs that I'm not able to mute in time. You've been warned. But yeah, back together, man. It feels like, I mean, I know we technically released an episode last week that was, just me and Jeremy recapping the episode, but not counting that because it really doesn't count. It's almost been like a month.
I'll say to some of you guys, I saw some comments about people being pretty high on Jeremy. And I want you to know, Jeremy is a stand-in. He's a fill-in. That's all he is. So you guys who got super excited, Jeremy, I'm coming for you. So
he's shaking in his boots.
Yeah. Is he hiding behind that green screen of yours?
He is actually. He's right here with me. He's jotting something down on a piece of paper with a malicious look. So
you're cheating on me. How dare you? But yeah, it's been a long time. Yeah, because you were, and if you guys don't mind, a little bit of an extended intro, because this is actually the first time my friend Will and we've sat down in weeks.
Yeah.
Your trip to Iceland, awesome.
It was amazing. I guess I brought home some COVID with me, but other than that, I think I got that in New York because we stopped in New York on the way home. Like that's where our flight from Iceland landed. We didn't also go like separately to New York. I'm guessing I got it there. But anyway, Iceland was freaking beautiful, dude. Most beautiful place I've ever seen. Amazing. Would highly recommend it.
Place you've ever seen?
Yeah, I mean, it was my first time being out of the country, so it's not like, I mean, I've been to a handful of places in the United States, some very beautiful, but Iceland definitely takes the cake. Just the natural scenery, man. It's like Jurassic Park. Like I kept feeling that way, like because you'd see the birds like flying around these like picturesque, like untouched by man.
We got birds here,
We do. We got some awesome
birds.
Birds aren't real, by the way, first and foremost.
True.
True. Yeah, I got some awesome drone footage that we're gonna hopefully go through, and I'll have to send you some stuff.
You should put some up on the channel just for it's not really like Pixelist-esque, but I don't know, maybe someone will find it interesting.
Yeah, if we get some, I'll see what I can do. Maybe work some.
Comment, we don't want this.
Yeah, like unsubscribe.
No, actually, I saw you sent one piece of drone footage. Awesome drone, by the way. It looked really good. What was it like being unplugged?
It was
from the Matrix.
It was nice. It was nice. We had a little hotspot like for when we needed internet, but it was good. It felt like I said, at least in most of Iceland, it's like few and far between like civilization. So it's just kind of cool.
It kind of reminds me, the way you describe it reminds me is when I went to Yosemite with my wife, and it was like the same thing. It was like a sense of like this hidden area, like in America, but like I couldn't like mentally wrap my head around like the beauty of the landscape. And even like certain like spots where you'd want to take a picture, like you would take a photo and like you'd look at the photo and be like, this doesn't at all capture.
Yeah, it just doesn't do it justice. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So well, that's really cool. You didn't have to bring COVID home because you could have gotten it here.
Yeah, apparently. Oh, yeah. And for the record, we did not give it to each other. So we both just independently got it.
Should that have seemed oddly sexual or I just read it that way.
Well, I just was thinking to myself, I was going to be like, man, I wonder if people think like, oh, Will probably gave it to Blake. And I'll just be like, no, don't put that evil on me.
Yeah, okay. Not like there's anything wrong with that. I was just curious.
Yeah. So. Not there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah. Well, guys, it's so good to be back. And Will, I wish there were better circumstances for today's episode. Got a lot to talk about with today's episode. But before that, got a little giveaway to talk about.
Yeah. We're finally announcing this giveaway.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're announcing it. Well, we're announcing that we're giving away something. Like,
right.
The giveaway is we already are giving it away.
Right.
Basically, we hit 1,000 subs. So for you guys who subscribe to the channel, thank you so much. It is gracious and kind of you to follow our channel. And we went down our sub list and we grabbed someone randomly. And this person, for subscribing to our channel, this person wins a year's subscription to dropout.tv. If they enjoy Dimension 20 with Brendan Lee Mulligan, they win a copy of Tal'Dorei Reborn, and they also win a cool premium dice set, which I'll order another pair to have delivered here so I can show it on the channel so that people know. Like, what was it again? Or I can grab like a stock image. But so we chose someone. Do you want to reveal who it was?
I'll let you have the honors also because I didn't write it down. So.
Oh, okay. Well, the winner of our 1K subscriber giveaway is Soft Girl. That is your YouTube handle. And all we did this giveaway, then we realized you can tell how like unprepared we were for this whole thing because we realized we had no way to contact you. So if you'll just comment in the video below, or if you will tweet at us at the Pixelists, we would be happy to make sure that we get all that stuff sent to you, mailed to you. And we want to tell you thank you for subscribing to our channel. And for everyone else, you lose. No, I'm just kidding. For everyone else, we are super thankful, and we'll do another giveaway sometime in the near future, I'm sure. But
definitely.
That's pretty much it. And I guess if we never hear from you, then we'll give it away to someone else.
Yeah. So
I guess probably this time next week, if we haven't heard anything, we'll just give it away again.
Yeah. So hopefully, Soft Girl, hit us in the comments, find us on Twitter. If we never hear from Soft Girl again, then we'll redo the raffle. So
she will go into the vault with the Witcher 2, of Witcher 2 fame. Witcher 2 and Soft Girl, rest in peace.
But forever a Pixelist legend, so it's almost a good trade-off, you know.
Yeah, you don't get your prize, but you do get, joked about. So
yeah,
all that to say. Are we done with announcements? Are we ready to?
I think so. I think
ready
so.
To bring on the hurt?
I think we're ready to dive in. And if you're unfamiliar with us, we like to recap each episode before diving into our discussion. And we cut that video out and host that separately on YouTube for your convenience. So if you happen to find yourself on just that recap video right now, hello. Thank you for checking us out. If you enjoyed the recap, definitely check out our full discussion, which we will link below.
Sorry for how distracting my water drinking was during that.
You're
I was
fine.
What am I doing?
Listen, we have COVID. Anything goes. But so, without further ado, I'm sorry, I had to cough. Let's dive into this recap. Episode 33 of Critical Role. I actually don't have the name of it, but I'm sure Sadness and Regret is probably an apt,
sounds about right.
temporary title. But anyway, so we pick up with the party who are at the Seat of Disdain, the Paragons Call hideout, last episode, and we pick up with these Paragons Call members like rushing through the halls, yelling like something is going down. They are apparently being attacked. Also to note, there's this dust storm that's raging at the same time, and all of a sudden there's explosions that start to go off. Two members of the Paragons Call that are like running by yell at the party. They're like, hey, help defend the base. And the party essentially splits into two groups. Group 1, we have Laudna, Ashton, Fern, and F.C.G. they're going to kind of stay here and figure out what's going on, perhaps plant the tracking ring that they had retrieved from the pawn shop in the previous episode and figure out who's attacking, what's going on. Meanwhile, group 2 of Chetney, Imogen, and Orem, they are going to go run and try to grab Treshi during this, perfect distraction. So group 1 heads out of their room, and they see that one of the walls of the Seat of Disdain has been completely taken by attackers. And the mammoth crawler that they were loading up for this mission has already had one of its legs like completely folded in. The explosions were going off near it. Fern and Ashton immediately make their way toward some of the crates that have fallen off of the mammoth crawler and decided to look in them. There were these long vials strewn about and some liquid spilled. Ashton warns hey, nobody touch this liquid. Meanwhile, Fern is able to kind of sneak some of the vials into her skirt, and Ashton actually nabs a few himself as well. Meanwhile, Laudna has casted Spider Climb on herself and is climbing up the crawler just to inspect things. And it's then actually rocked with another explosion, so she kind of has to dexterously get out of the way before it crushes her. Meanwhile, Group 2 has made their way down to the basement to go locate Treshi. Chetney prepares to unlock it, but it's already unlocked. So someone has beat them here. In a rush, he kind of sprints down the stairs and doesn't accurately look for traps and trips on a wire, tumbling down the stairs. And Imogen actually, in an attempt to help, telekinetically shoves him, but ultimately just pushes him further down the stairs. And at the bottom, there's already an unconscious guard who's missing his keys. So they're like, okay, uh-oh. So they sprint down the hall and they see 2 guards up ahead who are currently shooting something that they can't see around the corner. So they're currently engaged with someone. Orem decides to run up, sprint, head around the corner. And as he does, he sees that Artana Vo is actually this assailant. And Treshi is still locked in his cell, but she's clearly trying to get to him. So they have a brief kind of combat encounter with Artana Vo. But they are able to actually get her slightly bound up with a few natural 20s from the group. Orem rolls a natural 20 to bind her legs together. And he then actually hits another natural 20, I believe, which is a persuasion check to her. And they basically come to this brief understanding that maybe they're kind of here for the same reason. So it's kind of chill between them for now. Also, in the meantime, though, Artana Vo had taken out both of those guards that were there. So Chetney goes to Treshi's door, trying to lockpick it. Imogen's like, yo, just jump in this hole. And she kind of throws the portable hole under the bars for him to jump in. And Treshi's like, I don't know about that. So Chetney continues to try to get the lock. He ultimately does get it. But he rolls a natural 20. He's in his werewolf form, by the way. He rolls a natural 20 at Treshi and intimidates him to get in the hole. And so he does. Orem then cuts the rope binding Artana Vo, since they kind of have this brief understanding, but she immediately goes invisible and she asks, where are you taking Treshi? And Orem says, home. She then reappears, drops her invisibility at the top of the stairs and says, our goals aren't so different. Let's go. Back to Group 1, Laudna is making her way back to Ashton and Fern, whilst F.C.G. actually darts off in the opposite direction. Ashton's like, what are we doing? And Ashton takes off after F.C.G. F.C.G. actually finds a crawler that's turned on its side. He jumps in, is able to get it right side up, and is like, I've got our getaway vehicle. Ashton who was chasing him, makes his way to him, and they start driving back toward the rest of the group. Meanwhile, Laudna has actually taken a quick detour and with her spider climb has climbed up the wall, making it all the way to the top of the balcony where she sees Otahan staring at her. Laudna's like, oh gosh, and casts darkness and then immediately tries to plant this tracking ring on her. She rolls a sleight of hand of 11 and just does her best, what she thinks is her best to plant the ring. Meanwhile, Otahan, who is blinded right now, takes her strikes on Laudna regardless, but because of the darkness and Laudna's mirror image spell, which was up, by the way, I forgot to mention, Otahan does not hit her. So Laudna then leaps off the balcony, feather falls down, and actually lands on the crawler that F.C.G. is driving, and Fern, in the interim, had hopped in with them as well. So now all 4 of them are in the crawler. Back to Group 2, Imogen's talking to Artana Vo and is like, hey, play along. We're going to just pretend that we've got you captured, basically. And she's like, I'm not going to lock these handcuffs, but I'm going to put them on you. So they do that, and they're walking by, and they actually walk by the war room, which is where Ratanish is. So he steps out and is like, oh, you've caught her. Like, great work. And in a panic, Imogen just shoves Artana Vo toward Ratanish, and Artana's like, what? And immediately drops the manacles and goes invisible. So Artanish is like, what? We have to find her. Like, everyone find her. And so he rushes away to go find her. So then the group scurries outside to go meet up with the rest of the party. They don't know where Artana Vo is. Group 1 has made their way in the crawler to the gate, but it is closed and locked. So they're basically sitting there trying to figure out, how can we get this open? They try a few different things, but ultimately between Fern using her Stonky's ring to telenetically remove some of the bindings and Ashton hitting some and removing them as well, they're able to get the gate open around the same time that the rest of the party shows up. They decide to head to Imahara Joe's, and they all can't fit on the crawler, so about half and half are on the crawler, and the other ones are running. And as they go, there's somebody standing in the way, and it is Otahan. And she says, let's have a conversation, shall we? And as she does, these shadowy versions of herself pop up, and that's where we go to break.
Oh, well, I don't want to do this.
Good luck.
So coming back from break, and I can't remember if maybe this was actually right before the break. Artana Vo is actually going to take 3 strikes at the crawler, blow the front wheel off it, and the crawler has to roll like a save to see if it blows up or not. And it fails. And then so the crawler explodes, and Matt describes this awesome moment of Otahan like cloak whipping in the wind. There's still this massive sandstorm that's like really hard to see through. And the people who are on the crawler take quite a bit of fire damage, and then they're all sort of split on both sides of her. And like Will mentioned, she's like, let's have a chat. And Chetney's like, we're good. I think he actually says, like, let's see what your insides look like, and decides that he's going to attack her. And actually right before this, Otahan's actually asking, like, what's going on? Like, who are you guys working for? Orem actually feels like this icy spike in his head, which is implied to be basically like a version of detect thoughts. And Otahan basically says, oh, Lord Esteros, I'll have to pay him a visit. So then the party's kind of like, oh, okay. Like, so this lady's kind of smart, I guess. And that's then when Chetney's like, let's see what your insides look like. They roll for initiative and attack this legendary fabled warrior of the Paragons Call. And unfortunately, they all roll low for their initiative. I will say that Imogen actually, before combat happens, she's going to cast Hungry Torrent, which is like this whipping sort of like red electrical storm on Otahan, on Otahan, and her little echoes actually, even the ones that succeed, disappear. They poof into nothingness. Matt mentions to Orem, you actually notice you recognize these shades, these echoes, to be the gray assassins that you've been familiar with up to this point. You've heard stories of with other people. They attacked and killed your husband, Will, implying basically this was Otahan all along. So already the stakes, the weight of this moment is pretty high. Otahan just takes the Hungry Torrent, stands in it. Combat begins. Everyone rolls lower than Otahan. Otahan charges forward to Ashton, the barbarian of the party, the person with arguably the most health, or one of the most health, and in literally one turn knocks him unconscious. And this is the moment that I texted Will and was like, we're done. Like we're dead. Ashton gets knocked unconscious. Ashton is immediately like, okay, I was at high health and now I'm at 0. And the party is about to sort of panic. Orem is going to pop a health potion into Ashton's mouth and immediately try to attack Otahan. And basically the way the first couple of rounds go is Otahan basically absolutely destroying the party, is going to knock Orem unconscious. And the party basically has this moment of realizing there is absolutely no way we can beat this person. And there's sort of this back and forth of like, should we stay? Should we go? Like, we don't want to leave Ashton. We don't want to leave Orym. And they ultimately decide we got to just get out of here. Like, this person is way too strong for us. Like, this is a bad idea. Let's get out of here. So what's going to happen is Chetney actually continues to fight Otahan in a very cool Travis moment of sort of like trying to get her attention. Laudna is going to flee one direction, as is F.C.G. Fern is going to use fiery teleportation with Mister to teleport away. And Imogen is also going to Misty Step into a second floor building, trying to get out of line of sight and ultimately escape. The problem with this plan is they don't realize that Otahan is freaking broken in this fight. She resummons the Echoes. The Echoes, by the way, seem to die with one hit. It seems like they don't have any health at all whatsoever. Actually one hit point. And yet they do a tremendous amount of damage. Ashton, who gets back up, gets re-attacked by Otahan, gets knocked unconscious again. And Ashton's like, well, great. I had some really cool stuff I want to do, but I'm unconscious for the second time. And also the party, they're sort of torn between like, okay, we want to get people. We don't want to leave our friends behind, but we also have to get out of here.
Right.
So a couple of things happen. Laudna, seeing Orym and Ashton go down, is going to cast Wither and Bloom, which causes, if I'm remembering correctly, it allows a friendly character to roll a hit die, even if they're unconscious. So she's going to cast that on Ashton from, I think, 60 feet away, which allows him to get back up. And then I can't remember what it does to Otahan. Do you remember what it does? It allows a hit die for your friend, but it does something to the enemy. And I apologize, I didn't actually know this ability until she started casting it. So
yeah, I'm not familiar with it enough off the top of my head either.
So she's going to do this a couple of times during this fight, by the way. But so Ashton gets he gets popped back up and immediately bolts, like he leaves. He's like, I'm out of here. Fern is going to cast Cure Wounds on Orym to get him back up. Chetney is going to continue to rail. And Imogen is basically like, is this the right call? Like, do I really need to leave? And F.C.G is basically like mentally sending a message saying like, she wants you, like, you have to get out. Like you are like the prize that she wants. Even if we all die, you have to get out. So she's continuing like out the window away from the fight. Again, this plan isn't working so well because though Ashton gets away, Orym gets knocked unconscious again. And in fact, what ends up happening is she actually has 4 attacks. She has 3 main hand attacks, so to speak, and then she has her offhand attack as well. So she's talking to Imogen, basically being like, and I think Matt even says like, it's almost as if she can detect other minds. So she's talking to Imogen, basically being like, you can't run from this. Like, you need to give in to like that hunger, that storm that's in your stomach, like the dreams, all these things that have built up to this moment. Give in and it will end. And Imogen's like, no, I won't. Like pretty typical, like, I'm not going to do it. Yeah. Fern gets knocked unconscious. She actually is, she uses one of her actions to dash. She has legendary resistances and legendary actions again, by the way, because she's a freaking insane boss. Basically tells Fern that she's a weaker Ruidusborn, almost like you're not worthy of being Ruidusborn. It's going to knock Fern unconscious. She's going to do something called a psi-powered leap, where she jumps 80 feet across the battlefield over to Laudna. And Chetney's like, I think Travis was like, okay, so now we're definitely dead, because I thought I could fight her, but now it's very clear that we can't. Goes over to Laudna, knocks her unconscious. Matt apologetically says to his bride, hey, there's no one else for me to attack, so sorry. Attacks Laudna. 2 immediate death fails. Very intense moment. It gets back to Laudna's turn. If she rolls a 3rd death fail, she's dead. So I'm freaking out. She rolls a natural 20. Here's Delilah Briarwood say, there's so much more for us to do. And she pops back up. Whew. Meanwhile, Sorry, this is all out of order, by the way. I was panicking watching this whole episode. Meanwhile, Otahan is going to switch places with one of her echoes to go back to Chetney. And Imogen, by the way, while Laudna was unconscious, was like, Laudna, are you there? Are you okay? And upon realizing that Laudna is seriously wounded, decides to come back. She casts Fly on herself and sort of like flies up, serving the battlefield, and begins to attack Otahan. Otahan, who, by the way, is really not looking that rough, mostly because the party's been running this whole fight. If it wasn't clear they weren't screwed yet, I mean, they're definitely screwed. And Otahan basically says, like, clearly I haven't, and also seeing everyone like getting popped back up, she's like, clearly I haven't made this clear for you. Like, your only options to give in. And so she goes over to Orym, has knocked him unconscious, attacks him again to the death, immediate death fails, and then attacks him again, and automatic fail. Orym has his third death fail, and Matt says the words. He says, what are Orym's last words? And Liam describes that Orym has a feeling of immense failure, his voice shaky, and he says, at least I get to see Will again. And then out of his hand falls the blue glowing sending stone that he had given the other one to his best friend, Dorian, from previous in the campaign. And as Otahan delivers the final blow, she realizes, we've met before. And Orym goes, yeah. And then sticks him, and Orym is dead. And then Otahan goes over to Fern and does the same to her. And Fern's last words are, oh, what a wild ride this was. She dies, has her third death fail. Chetney gets knocked unconscious. Laudna, who got popped back up, gets attacked by Otahan again. And Otahan actually says to Imogen, this one's your favorite, right? And Imogen's like, no, like I give in. And Otahan basically says, it's too late for that. Like, you don't get to choose now to give in. Attacks Laudna, skewers her with her sword, lifts her up on the blade. 2 death fails again. And before the third strike, the third death fail can happen, Imogen has to roll a wisdom save against this overpowering hunger, this storm brewing inside of her. And she rolls a natural 1. And so the storm erupts from her. Matt describes this raging red storm, the sandstorm that was darkening the place around them turns red. The buildings sort of wither away. And then there's a brief moment of white light. And that's where the episode ends. Episode freaking 33 of Campaign 3 of Critical Role, called Blood and Dust, by the way.
Real feel-good episode.
Yeah. So if you are checking out just the recap and you want to know what we thought about the episode, we want to know what you thought about the episode, this incredible episode, click the link below, go to the full video. Will, I was sick with COVID watching this episode, and I was trying to get to bed early, and I texted. It was about 1 a.m. when I finally finished it, because it was like the 2-hour mark. I think when Orym went down for the first time, and I texted you. I said, if Orym dies, I'm done. But I couldn't stop watching,
Yeah.
Of course. So I watched the remaining 2 hours. It was 1 a.m, super sick with COVID. My kids get up around like 6:37. They're sick with COVID. So I already know my wife's going to be like, why are you up so late? So I get to bed. Little backstory. My wife has never watched Critical Role. I haven't really watched that much Critical Role. I've mentioned in past episodes, I've watched like maybe 20 episodes of Campaign 1, probably about 10 to 15 of Campaign 2. But what got me re-engaged was my wife and we watched EXU together every episode, all 9 episodes. We loved it. Loved it for what it was, but it was kind of our thing, watching it every week. And it's what got her into D&D, actually. So now she's in my campaign. We play every couple of weeks. So we loved Orym and Fern from EXU. So I get into bed. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. She's like, hey, like, what's going on? And I say, Orym and Fern died.
Oh, gosh.
and she just literally like hand over her mouth. She's like, what? I was like, yeah.
Dropping that bomb on her at 1 a.m. COVID. Oh man.
She couldn't be mad at me for staying up late.
Yeah, she understood.
Yeah, and then I had a friend of mine who I texted. I said, hey, have you watched it yet? And he said, no, not yet. And then he texted me the next morning and he said, yep, definitely just dropped a big old man-sized tear when Forum got finished off. So those are a couple of my interactions. Man, what was going through your head when this episode finished?
Bro, this is crazy, dude. I think I texted you because I was watching it when it was airing, and I figured you weren't awake at the time because I hadn't been talking to you throughout the episode, but I was like, I think I texted you. I was like, dude, are you watching? And I wanted to say more, but I was like, I can't say too much because he'll know that like something happened. So that
it's Dexter's brother. Wait, what? Wait, what?
Exactly. And that was actually my my struggle the next few days, is because I wanted to be like, oh, dude, you should really watch this episode. But I was like, if I say too much, he's gonna know something happens. So I don't know I don't know from your perspective how I landed on which side of the line there. If I kind of gave away that something crazy happened.
No, I just knew it was a good episode. And I, knock on wood, I mean, I somehow avoided spoilers, but when you have COVID, you're not doing anything else other than just getting sick. And so I watched up to the first half one night, which, by the way, the first half, like, the second half was insane. The first half was such just great D&D.
Yeah, like, it really was.
Energy, like, and I don't know if we can maybe park there for a second of like, from like a DM, like I put out the video on like DM tips, which I don't know what we want to call, if we want to do more of that. What was it about that first half that made it so energized and fun? I mean, even when it ended, Liam O'Brien was like, Matt, you are on fire.
Yeah.
This table's on fire. Like, you could feel that.
Yeah. It was a masterclass in DMing because he ran two things simultaneously. We had the group one that was dealing with the attack, and then group two dealing with Treshi, all completely seamlessly with no initiative ever. Like, it was just so impressive being able to juggle those two things and never have a dull moment. And then, of course, just the set piece, the setting of what was actually happening was also really exciting. We have this attack and this, potential kidnapping, for lack of a better word, I guess. First half was phenomenal. I even tweeted, like, or I don't know if I tweeted or was talking to somebody, but I was like, this would be such a fun episode animated.
You told me that, yeah.
I said that during the first half. Little did I know that this episode animated would destroy me if that ends up happening. But yeah, I'm right there with you. The first half was so much fun, so good.
Yeah, it really was, and there were some really awesome natural 20s.
Yeah, a lot.
Half. I think Travis hit like back-to-back natural 20s or close to back-to-back.
I think Liam did too.
Yeah. There were just some awesome rolls, and just like the what was cool was like these small references to the storm coming in, and then it being like such an awesome like setting for what would be transpiring in the first half of that episode. Like, I could almost visualize it perfectly. And it's interesting because I think sometimes Matt gets like memed about like over like describing stuff of like, I think there's like a meme of like Matt tries to describe like how water tastes, and it's like an essay or something. But when you think about it from like a DM's perspective, very little actually described, or I don't want to say very little. I would say that Matt's words were very intentional. And I think that's it's an insight for all of us who ever DM, in that, creating descriptive landscapes for your party doesn't have to be overly fluffy or like, you all the way down to like the color of the soil. He described it, you could visualize it, and then the energy of the scene kind of took over, which I think that's, like you said, it's a masterclass in DMing for sure.
Yeah. And what a cool, I'm just thinking about this now, but how cool that like we got the, storms coming like literally, but also a storm was freaking coming with this encounter that they were going to have. So I don't know if he like, I mean, I'm sure he did. Well, I guess he didn't know that that was going to go down that way. So he probably didn't plan for like what's the word I'm looking for? The like foreshadowing of that storm necessarily leading to this boss fight, if you will. But really cool that it worked out that way.
I mean, I think I would disagree in the sense of like, I think they had the set piece, right? Like the set piece was there. And I think Matt even tweeted like, it's such a compliment when someone can say the show is scripted. Cause like, I think you see the set piece and you're like, see, he knew they were going to get to that spot. But like, again, from like a DM's perspective, like you have these story points that knowing your party. I think Brendan Lee Mulligan said it of like, when you know your party well, you just know what they're going to do. Like even when you like set out breadcrumbs for them. And so we knew the party was going to be looking for a heist. They were going to look for an opportunity to get Treshi, sandstorm, distractions of this mysterious force attacking. So I think he knew it was going to lead to where it led and allowed the party, like let them walk into it. I don't know if he expected the party to basically attack Otahan like immediately. Because they're way out of their league with Otahan. But
yeah,
I don't know.
I think that obviously that whole scenario, there's ample opportunity for combat in a multitude of forms, right? And I know Matt also, like, anytime that's it, like possible, he will prepare sets. So he prepares sets that like just don't even ever see the light of day.
True.
So I'm with you there, but I just don't know that he necessarily foresaw this Otahan fight happening. Because I mean, who knows what could have happened? We could sit here, postulating things forever. But yeah, just what an awesome freaking just set piece moment that we got, regardless of the intention, I guess.
Yeah. So the party,
yeah,
they get into this fight. Do you think it would have gone differently if they had treated Artana a bit more? Like, I got the sense of Imogen sort of like pushing Artana into Ratanish, and then sort of behind, like after the moment was like, oh, I want to send a message, and it was like, oh, I can't see her. Matt was like, no, sorry. And then Imogen was like, almost like communicating with their DM, like, I would want her to know that like we knew she would get away, but it almost felt a little bit like realizing the severity of your actions and being like, ooh, that might have come across a little harsh. Like, I just wonder if maybe things had gone differently if they had been a bit more receptive to Artana, if maybe Artana might have even like jumped into the fray to help them, or I don't know. I mean,
yeah,
what's your take?
Yeah, I definitely felt like Laura was trying to kind of have her cake and eat it too with that moment. Like, because that was a great out for the Ratanish moment, like right. It worked perfectly. They were able to mosey on their way after they did that. But I think kind of the reaction of everybody else at the table being like, you're already betraying her. And she's like, right. She knows I was just like kidding. Right. So, I don't know, like that had gone slightly different. Maybe Artana hops in. I mean, we don't really know enough about her, but from what I do understand about her, maybe she would help just because they still have Treshi and that's her mission. Right. That could be the only reason I see her maybe jumping in, or maybe she just jumps in to steal the portable hole and then gets her way, because I don't think she's going to be like putting her life on the line just to help the Bell's Hells.
Speaking of Treshi, is he dead?
Not yet, because I haven't like looked this up, but for some reason I'm thinking 10 minutes is the amount of time that there's like air in there. And
with 10 minutes. But
okay. And with combat, each round being 6 seconds, like I think it's only been a couple minutes probably.
Well, yeah, I think of that, but then I also think about the time leading up, like him jumping in the hole, them escaping, passing Ratanish, getting into the crawler,
true,
doing donuts, getting to the door, having conversation with. So I think from like if you split into 5-minute halves, it feels like they're on the back half of that 10-minute mark.
I'd agree with that. So, so I'd say that like. Assuming, I mean, who knows what's going to happen when we pick up with this next episode, but assuming there's not a TPK and there is some sort of aftermath. I think they'll still be within the 10 minutes if they like remember in the moment. But like if there's any amount of time like post combat, and that's not like one of the first things they handle, then yeah, he is going to be dead.
It's like that. Oh man, what was that show where it's like, I'm forgetting something important. And he's like, if you're forgetting, it wasn't important. And it's the son, like, you know, soaking wet at the soccer practice.
I know what you're talking about, but I just
envision him like at a tavern, like, you know, taste of Tal'Dorei, like eating, like having a drink, and just like they're all beat up and bruised. Like, I feel like we're forgetting something. Treshi's just dead in the hole.
I mean, that easily could be what happens, honestly. Well, the good news is I guess they've had at least a week to potentially plan here. I saw that I don't know if you know this or not, but a lot of the cast likes to go to Burning Man, and I've saw on their Instagram recently that a few of them were there. So I'm wondering, like, and this obviously has no actual implication on anything, but I'm curious if like it would be kind of funny if like this moment, this cliffhanger moment is like where they kind of took a break. It'd be funny if they were just like dealing with all of this while being at Burning Man and just kind of letting go and being like, well, we might all be dead, but it's also entirely possible that the timeline does not shake out that way. But anyway, my point was they've had plenty of time, at least a week, to hopefully someone thinking of Treshi and being like, that's one thing we got to make sure we do. Whereas, you know, if this was all in the same episode, I could easily see them forgetting that and him being dead. But
yeah,
you know, we'll see.
So what happens from here?
Yeah,
let's talk options here. I guess grand scheme of things, we probably both agree that it's a very real possibility that someone is dead after this episode, like permanently dead.
Definitely possible.
Do you feel like, because I've seen some conversations on this of like, I'm in the camp of like shamelessly in love with all these characters. I want them all back. I want everyone, you know, neat and tidy in their little, you know, corner, like safe from harm, like a true parent, I guess. But I've seen, so like if they were to all, we know F.C.G has Revivify. I think just one cast though, because he said to Imogen several times, like he's been holding it. He only has one. We know Fern has possibly something. So they could. She
has Revivify.
Okay, great.
There's a little bit. We did a little bit of back and forth in the Discord about this. Apparently, Wildfire Druids all automatically have Revivify, and they like always have it prepared. So Fern has it as well. And I think the consensus is she either has one or two spell slots. So if F.C.G can get her up, she might be able to get two more people up, maybe.
Yeah. So F.C.G could get Fern up. Fern could get Orem up. Chetney has failed a death save, I think.
If so, only one, I think.
Okay, yeah.
And then Laudna's sitting at two fails.
Yeah. And Laudna, I think, should be rolling earlier possibly than other people. I think so.
I think she's before F.C.G, so like she's gonna make that last death save before anything happens. I think.
Oh my gosh, bro, I'm gonna kill myself.
She only has to roll a 16 or higher, right? Because of that thing she has, or maybe not. I don't know. Maybe that's something
16, if it's a 16, it's treated as a crit, right? So
which means you come back up at 1,
right? Unless she gets a 10, she's
stable, or
she's not stable.
She's not stable, but yeah,
she's one success and not permanently dead.
She makes it another round at least.
I guess I don't know why we're rambling about this. What I was trying to get to was the conversations I've seen happen is, oh, but so-and-so could get this person up, you know, kind of like playing, you know, like Pepe Sylvia with like, when this happens, you know, like the long form theorizing.
Just coping.
Pretty much. And then the other side of it has been like, no, like it removes all stakes from the story if death isn't permanent. It reminds me of, I can't think what TV show it's bringing to mind, but it was just like a show where you just knew like it never mattered if someone was dead because they could always get brought back.
Oh, like DBZ or something.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Frieza's back again. Tell me, where do you sit in this camp?
I think the people that are saying that like spell slots that are used to revive cheapening things is a bit ridiculous. That's a core mechanic of the game. Like, it'd be different if like nobody had any spell slots. It was a full TPK and Matt just like suddenly a party of clerics show up, that I would agree with that cheapens the stakes, but them just using the tools at their disposal that's D&D. Like, I have no issue with that. I do think that I don't want anybody to die either, obviously, but I do think that the fact that that's a possibility in these stories and in D&D is part of what adds stakes and kind of makes it impactful to some degree. So I definitely don't think it should be that no one can die. I guess I don't know where I landed on that debate, but I guess I'm more team like deaths add stakes and stuff, but not to the level of don't even use your revivify spell. I think that's ridiculous. Yeah. What about you?
I think we're on the same page. Yeah, like I think the people who are like someone has to die for the story to have weight to it, I think
that's no.
Yeah, I think it's a bit silly. And you need a puppy because you you want total sadness. I don't think anyone has to die for a story to be meaningful.
Right.
In fact, I mean, the fact that no one is dead yet and there's so much conversation. Like, I was on the Out of the Loop subreddit because I had heard there's a lot of controversy about Rings of Power, and I was like, what's going on with this? So I was trying to find that thread, seeing if there was one. Mm-hmm. But then I found, like, at the top, there was a thread on Out of the Loop subreddit of what's going on with the latest Critical Role episode.
Oh, really? I didn't see that.
And there was all this conversation about it. So, like, the fact that there's so much buzz, that in and of itself, to me, communicates that the weightiness is already there. Like, the punchiness of the story is already there. And therefore, someone doesn't have to die for it to be meaningful. And I agree with you. I think the spell slots are there for a reason. I think that, I'd go as far as to say, like, someone having to die for the sake of the story is bad DMing. And we've ranted and raved about how awesome Matt is. So I just don't see that happening. Where like someone's like, oh, I want to cast Revivify. Oh no, someone comes and binds your hands and you can't cast it. Like, I just don't see that happening. But I will say, because of how things are, limited resources in terms of spell slots, possibly a multitude of characters who are on death's door, very real possibility that one of these characters that we've said goodbye to them, basically.
Yeah, I mean, agreed. Because we don't even. Well, okay. Before I jump too far, that was actually a really good. You set me up kind of nicely to go somewhere. Speaking of that Out of the Loop thread and just the general discourse, and pardon me for ranting here, but just the narrative. And we briefly mentioned the tweet that Matt sent out about the scripted game, but the narrative that like Matt railroaded his players because he scripted this, or that I can't believe Matt would kill his players. Like, it just drives me bonkers. Like, he even, I think, sent a tweet out about this as well, but like, there's trust at their table. Like, you know, this is their game. Like, just, I don't understand, unless somebody is like brand new to Critical Role. This is like one of your first 5 episodes you've seen. Like, how do you not know that? Like, how do you not trust Matt? How do you not trust this table by now to like get all upset about that and like accuse Matt of like being sinister or, setting this up like deliberately to kill his players and stuff? Because like, nothing could be further from the truth. I think it's awesome that Matt like didn't, put on the, what's the word I'm looking for here, but didn't like
the oven mitts.
Yeah, like they they put on the oven mitts, exactly. Like this
with gloves.
Yeah,
I got it. That was
it. From somebody who's I don't want to even possibly somebody infer spoilers from this, but like if you've seen Matt, like when and I'm just not going to say anything actually, but that's just not what he like. I respect exactly how he played this, and I think anybody that's like drumming up drama, or I don't know, I'm rambling, but I just don't be ridiculous to those people. I say to you,
I mean, it's kind of like the curse of social media. Honestly, is like, the keyboard warriors who like have to post like their hottest take, and that spills over to like the shows we love and enjoy, where like, someone has to have an opinion on like every little thing. And this happened in Calamity also a little bit, like where people were like, oh, Brennan shouldn't have. It should have been like, and like I think following with what you said, I think sometimes it's just healthy to just like realize it's okay to have a difference of opinion or how you would approach things, and otherwise just enjoy the show.
Yeah,
it's like. I mean, saying that with the irony of like, this is we review, all of our stuff. But I mean, there's been plenty of stuff, even with EXU, that was, I would say, generally panned. You and I don't think we were wearing kids' gloves. I think we just, in reviewing the show, we said like, yeah, I wouldn't have done it that way, or that's not really for me, or I didn't really appreciate that. But that was like the extent of it. It was just like, yeah, that's not how I see it. Like, I think these individuals, if they had more of an appetite to that kind of dialogue, I think you would just enjoy the show better.
Yeah.
So
I just, anyway. And not to, I'll be done with it after this sentence, but the part that irks me is that clearly it's getting in front of Matt's eyes to the point where he feels the need to like defend himself by sending out these tweets. So that's just like, and I mean, I guess, it's hard to avoid it, but it's just annoying that like that hate reaches him,
Can we talk spoilers for campaign 2 for a second? Like that's our campaign 2 spoilers. When you see me do this again, as you're scrubbing through, you can know it's over. I don't know. When Molly Mock died, which, I just,
you aren't supposed to know this.
I just embraced it on YouTube and watched it. So,
oh, you did? The moment where he died?
Yeah. Because it was referenced, I think, in the Comic-Con panel or something. And I was like, all right, I might as well just watch this. But I remember I read something. There was an interview with Matt. It was like a news article where Matt said he was either surprised or just, I don't want to put words he didn't say. He didn't say, I don't know if he said overwhelmed or what the phrasing was, but basically said so much passionate reaction to Molly Mock dying.
Yeah.
And it really rubbed up against the way I interpreted it was that he was not put off, maybe like a little surprised with this passion, and basically had to reassure the fans like, hey guys, like this is the world that the players live in. And more importantly, like you said, there is trust at our table. Like there's deep trust, which by the way is another great DM insight, building that trust. So the fact that not only was he having to sort of like put out fires back then to now 2 characters, maybe 3,
maybe more, honestly.
I can't imagine the level of like antagonizing that the CR cast has had to withstand, especially Matt. And it's definitely kind of a bummer, like you said.
But I guess that just kind of comes with the territory the bigger and bigger they get,
Yeah. Well, it's a story brand. And yeah, I mean, by the way, spoilers over.
Nice.
Other than the fact that season 8 was trash, Game of Thrones, it's like you're going to have people who love it, people who hate it. There's going to be so many like armchair experts on how do you write effectively and all this kind of stuff. So CR as a brand. And there's been times where Matt has even said, or the cast has said like, hey, at the end of the day, this is less of a brand and it's more of a bunch of friends playing D&D together. Like that's what we want to protect. So I trust them even though it hurts. So
yeah. So sorry for that slight segue.
No, it was good to say. I think it's good you said it.
But back to where I think you were leading us to is where do we like what happens from here? Is that what we were talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I know you just recently were able to finish it. So I don't know if you've seen any of the theory crafting or any of that realm of things. I haven't honestly seen too much. Like I said, a few of us spoke a little bit in the Discord. But I have seen some interesting things. Again, just to lay the status here, we've got Orem dead, Fern dead, Laudna death's door, Chetney potentially making death saves. Can't recall, but he can obviously just be brought up by a heal. We might be sitting at 3 people dead. We know we have 1 revivify guaranteed from fresh cut grass, and then I think guaranteed at least 1 from Fern because we know she has the spell, and she should at the very least have 1 spell slot, but potentially 2. And also the general consensus was that they have more than enough diamonds to use Revivify, which because it uses a 300-ish gold diamond every time you want to cast a spell. So there is at least potential for people to get brought back up, but we have whatever the hell is happening with Imogen right now. Right. This storm is whipping through. I've seen some people be like, are they going to all teleport to the moon? Which, I mean,
interesting.
We know Ruidus is obviously at the centerpiece at this whole storyline with Otahan and Imogen. She's wanting her to let go. Otahan obviously wants access to this power for some reason. I have to believe that it's more than just like a Joker-esque, I want to like watch the world burn to see what happens. You know, to me, I feel like Otahan wants to utilize what's within Imogen, and maybe that's to get to the moon, you know, for all we know. Matt did mention everything going red, which obviously could just fit very thematically with Imogen's power and stuff, but maybe it's because they're on the moon now. I don't know. I've seen some people speculate that. Also, like, is whatever Imogen's doing going to be causing damage? It's destroying buildings. Like, I don't think Matt would make Imogen, like, kill her friends, like, without any agency on her own part, but it is something to think about if, like, maybe we cut back into the episode and we're still not even at a place of like, okay, F.C.G, go cast Revivify. Like F.C.G might go down, and then we're all out of options, you know?
She did roll a natural 1, which
right.
The perfectness of that roll. I mean, it was like, oh boy. So yeah, I mean, it could be a catastrophic failure where, like you mentioned, someone like F.C.G goes down. Then what do you do?
Yeah, and at that point, like, what, like, I don't know. Like, there's no spoiler slightly, I guess, but not. There's never been a TPK on Critical Role, so like, if that were to happen, what's next? Like, and I have seen some people, speaking of theory crafts, that they think a TPK is coming and it's setting up Imogen as the true BBEG of this campaign, and there's going to be a new party, and Imogen is the big bad.
We talked about that early, though.
We did talk about like the potential
we threw that out as an option, so not that interesting of a take, but
I think that's like a really fun theory and a cool idea, but I just don't necessarily really see the reality of that, because if that were the case, to me it would mean, unless Matt just made that the case in the past week, like a contingency of if a TPK happens, then this, maybe. But as far as like that always being the plan, I don't really see that, because to me it doesn't seem like these characters have all known they were going to die at this moment, and you know, like I have a hard time buying that all being the plan, I guess. But I mean, a TPK could happen, so it'll be interesting to see how that's played out, if so. I'm just kind of rambling here, but I don't know what to expect. I mean, obviously the other shoe has to drop with whatever Imogen's doing right now. Like, is she killing Otahan? Are they teleporting somewhere? I don't know. And then hopefully F.C.G's up once it's done, and then hopefully we can at least revive 2 people is what I'm thinking.
I don't see a TPK happening because we know Ashton is like hightailing it out of there. So we know at least potentially 1 survivor.
True.
I kind of even just wonder, like, mechanically, like, do Orem and Fern come to the session with like another character ready? Like what happens from here on out is what I don't, and I don't know past CR standards in terms of like what's happened previously, but like, I'm just wondering, like, what do they bring to the table this next Thursday? And surely Matt's like, there's been conversation. Like, I know Brennan Lee Mulligan in one of his campaigns on Dimension 20 told the players from the start, you need to have a backup character ready. So they knew from the get-go they were bringing not one character, but two characters with two backstories.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, like, what the dialogue has been, and like, again, what happens this Thursday? Like, I mean, I don't know.
I would say not knowing their filming schedule, like if there's only been a week between whenever they filmed this past episode and whenever the one this week airs, which, for all we know, it could be like maybe that's when they took a break and they've had 3 weeks since this episode. But if it's only been the standard 1 week, I don't imagine, like, even let's say Orym and Fern die, I don't see us getting introduced to a new character from Liam and Ashley this week.
Yeah.
If there has been like a 3-week break, then maybe. But if they are dead, I think they would probably just like get up, leave the table, and we wouldn't see them again this episode. And then who knows when we may be introduced to their new characters.
So which character, let's just grand scheme of thing, all the characters who are on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Which character are you in the grand scheme of the story?
You make me pick? You gonna do me like that?
Who do you feel most at peace with their story coming to an end?
With like letting die?
Yeah.
Man, they like, all have such interesting pieces to go. Oh.
But who do you feel at peace like letting go of, like, their story comes to an end?
No one. But if you're forcing me to pick, of those three,
yeah. Well, no, we could say anyone at the table.
Anyone on the table.
We don't. Obviously, I think the three are like the clearest people to point to. But with the storm happening, potential TPK, maybe everyone's on the chopping block, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, you could pick from those three or anyone.
Okay.
Again, not that anyone has to die.
Yeah.
Like, as you cope through this, like I am, like, who have you said in your mind, like, yeah, I feel that I could see that person, like, I feel at peace, at least more at peace with that person than someone else.
If you've gone to my head, you're making me pick. Let's just put that parameters on the table.
No bad juju on this answer, by the way.
And also, I'm gonna build some more parameters, just specifically to what you said in terms of like the story being like, all right, can be at most at peace with this, because I think I have my answer, but like, it's not my least favorite character. One of my favorites, so this has nothing to do with that. But I think I'd have to pick Orym, just because in terms of like the story beats, we now, like, it's Otahan. Those were the Grey Assassins. So like we have the main. It's not like resolved by any means, but we know now. Like, okay, and we can start piecing these things together. Whereas if we lose Fern, there's so many questions. Like Fern, I feel like there's the most questions with all this time dilation, her grandma, like there's so much left I still want to find out there. And same with Laudna. There's this whole Delilah angle that's very interesting and that we really know nothing about still. So if you're forcing me to just be okay with ending someone's narrative thread, I guess Orym, because not that there can't be more to Orym to unpack. I imagine there is as we go, but from what we know right now, at least we have a satisfying conclusion to like the main mystery he's been chasing.
Right.
That being said, I love Liam and I love Orym and I don't want him to die.
No, you said it.
What about you?
Pass. What was the moment in the episode where like Sam Riegel was like, "Did you just pass your turn?" Yeah, I mean, I could see, Chetney's story coming to an end, even though there's like breadcrumbs with the other person that he hates.
Yeah, we got to figure out what's going on there.
Yeah, sure. And I could actually see Fern passing, and them having with a heavy heart going back to her parents, and them having to make their way to Morrigan. However, my answer would be the same. It would be Orym. In the sense of, and it feels so bad, man, because Orym is like,
I know, I love Orym.
the perfect dude. he's like in my mind the hero of the party, and that has the most character, the most integrity,
moral compass for sure,
looking out for everyone. I mean, and that was the case in EXU too. And not only that, but Liam plays the fighter so freaking well with so much interesting descriptions of like everything that he's doing. He is cohesive. He's like the glue for the party of like kind of getting everyone's crap together. And it really hurt him facing the disappointment of I didn't avenge Will. That hurt.
Yeah.
So you want him to, you want him to bring justice to the world. But on the same token, borrowing Orem's words, at least I get to see Will again. At least I get to be reunited. Like you said, he found the answer. He found who the Grey Assassins were, and so yeah.
He gets to see Will and Derek, which was news to me that Derek was dead. I don't know if other CR historians, not that I'm one, but other people that have seen all the campaigns, if we knew he was dead. But to me, that was news. And bro, I don't know why, I guess just to feel something. I've rewatched that death scene a few times just because it was so like soft. I don't know if soft spoken is the right word, but it was so like down to earth, but like so real. Just like you could, like you said, his voice was kind of shaking, just the immense disappointment, and just that last like, "Oh, do I know you?" And he's just like, "Yeah," and just boom. I don't know. It resonated with me hard, and again, I know I just picked him, but I really hope Orem's not dead.
I take it back.
But bro, also, it's not really jumping too far away, but freaking Dorian, man, he was trying to freaking send him a message. That's just another gut punch. And like, can you like, I don't know if we'll see Robbie at the table again, but just a headcanon, imagine like him finding out that both of his EXU friends are dead. Like, oof. Oh, and I also can't like confirm this, but he was reaching for the stone. I think maybe he really like before he died, like he actually was planning on sending a message, and that wasn't just a fruitful description in the moment. Because Liam is like writing in his notebook, and I think
I saw that.
Laura like tried to see, and he like wouldn't show her. Yeah. So I'm wondering if he was writing his 25-word message like to Dorian, and maybe even like we're gonna get like maybe Matt, even if he does die, I'm sure Matt would allow like a dying breath, like I sent this last 25 message to Dorian, and that's gonna like break me if that's what happens. But I'm also excited for it, kind of like if he is gonna die, at least maybe we can have that moment. But yeah, it's gonna hurt.
Bro, we're just over 24 hours from the next episode. I can't watch it live, unfortunately.
Oof.
But I'm definitely going to watch it that next morning because I'll be under COVID quarantine for, next few days at least.
Yeah.
Dude, other thoughts or anything else you want to say about this episode?
Let me just briefly gauge my notes real quick. Did you have any... I feel like I kind of just dominated the section where we talk about what's happening next. Do you have any particular like theories or guesses for like what's going on with Imogen, where that might lead? Like, not that they're going to teleport to the moon or anything, but is there anything you've particularly...
I don't know. I think I don't ascribe to her being the big bad evil, but we know... I'm just going to go and say it. We know Rudis is evil. As far as we know it's and the fact that it's been calling to her, and that she rolled the natural 1 and it seemed to be unleashed in a very Gohan-esque moment. It's very Cell Gohan, by the way, is what I kept coming back to.
Such a great moment that was.
Android 20? 16? Sorry. Getting crushed, like the head getting crushed.
Oh, yeah. I think 16.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think so.
But yeah, I mean something is happening for sure. and I don't see it being good. I don't see it like you've gone Super Saiyan and now you have this new power. Like I think this is a negative outcome. She rolled a natural 1, couldn't resist it any longer. This evil power. Where we go from here, no idea.
And actually, I just realized I never brought this up. But yeah, it almost kind of seemed like, also I think obviously narratively made perfect sense, cohesive. But this moment with Imogen could also kind of be, in a way, an olive branch from Matt to be like, instead of a TPK, Imogen, do you give in? And so maybe Imogen and Otahan disappear. And who knows if we see Imogen again or maybe Laura comes back with a new character, or who knows. But I could see Imogen like being gone, and that, like, the gift of that is that F.C.G can now get Fern up, which maybe then can get, so I could see that happening. Now, exactly what that means, I don't know. Like, do they just poof away? But it did kind of have that, like, it had that vibe to me, like this is really bad. Imogen, do you give in? Like, I don't know if I'm reaching there, but to me, it kind of felt like this could be the way you sacrifice yourself, but save your friends type of thing.
Yeah. And it did feel like, I think the natural 1, because she was very much resisting. I think she even said, like, I'm not going to give in just to, like, make their sacrifice worthless.
Right.
And I think even F.C.G was like, please give in. Like,
yeah, I feel like there was kind of a wires crossed moment on, like,
I mean, which we've seen, like, in previous episodes where, like, there's, like, that's happening and you're kind of like I think, like, Dorian trying to get the ring from Treshi, and they're like,
that's exactly what I was thinking of.
we figured it out. But it did almost feel like that was happening. And so I think the natural 1 was a really nice way for, and again, not to get into, like, the railroading thing, but, like, Matt said it himself, as the DM, you're crafting an amazing story. And so there are story beats that you have envisioned, that those opportunities, when they come up, you drop them in.
Yeah.
For the sake of telling an incredible story for your party. So anyway, I guess we'll find out tomorrow, man.
Yeah.
I don't know.
This could be the before time, man. We're still living in the happy ignorance of maybe they all live, and come tomorrow, we might have 4 people dead for all we know. So
I regret.
Enjoy this for now.
Yeah, we've been saying that there hasn't been really we've been saying hasn't been a lot happening, but we have been saying, like, it's. I think the phrasing I used was that it almost feels kind of happy-go-lucky or a little passé, and, like, like, oh, we're gonna do this, and, like, all right, yeah, and, like, I think I said, like, the weight of Calamity wasn't there. Like, after watching Calamity, like, the vibe was different. I regret saying that. I wish I could go back to hijinks of the party.
I saw a really funny meme. You know that scene from Doctor Strange 2 where it's like, you do these things and you're a hero, I do them and I'm a villain. That's not fair. It was that, but it was like Matt and Brennan, and Matt as a Scarlet Witch was like, you kill your whole party and people are like, it's brilliant. When I do it, I'm the villain.
Oh, that is so good. You're gonna have to send that to me so I can show it to my wife.
Yeah, okay. I'll see if I can find it.
That's perfect, man. Great art, by the way. I wish I had that skill set, but the fan art has been incredible.
Yeah, it's been helping me cope this week for sure. There's been some amazing pieces.
Yeah, the meme I saw that I've been thinking of is, like, what is it, like? Where were you, like, when men cried or something? And it's like the screen grab of, like, like Imogen's like, oh my gosh, and, like, Liam's, like, putting his stuff together, like, player's dead or something. I'll have to find it again, but anyway,
there were a lot of good, like, screenshot meme moments from the cast this episode for sure.
All right, guys. Well, let us know what you thought. We got our thumbnail, right?
Well, let's not necessarily. I think let's we should just do what our guy's doing on the shirt. I think that'd be kind of funny.
Yeah. Okay. My other thumbnail idea was, like, sheer pain and agony and misery.
That actually might be better.
Just like I'm
down for that, actually.
All right, let's do that.
More vibe appropriate.
Sure.
Was dejection reading on my face? I don't know.
You looked a little lost, actually.
Should we do it again real quick?
It kind of looked like a guy who was like, "What am I reading here?"
Okay, my bad. Let's take two.
A little bit more emotion, maybe. All right, let's try that again. Okay. No, I'm trying not to laugh while doing it. All right. Hey, you guys, let us know what you thought about the episode in the comments. Soft Girl, tweet at us or DM us and let us know mailing address, info, all that kind of stuff, and we'll get that stuff shipped over to you.
Yeah, or also just hit us in the comments, because I don't know if your Twitter name's different. I don't want to make sure it's actually you, so we'll get in touch. Definitely just comment us here, tag us on Twitter. We'll figure it out.
Comments are the best for sure. So, all right. Well, the suffering continues tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right.
Unfortunately.
Thank you, guys. See ya.
Bye, y'all.